we're in alignment in the direction that we want to proceed.
Good enough for Detroit. Yeah.
Loved every second of my time here and would love more. And
since arriving in Detroit, Jared Goff has been a revelation. He used to be a quarterback whose contract was considered so bad that the Rams had to attach 2 first-round picks just to trade him away. But with the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff helped engineer a methodical turnaround for himself and his team. Thanks to steady play from their quarterback, the Detroit Lions, long regarded as one of the NFL's laughingstocks, slowly but surely became a winning franchise once again. After a long wait, the Lions earned not 1 but 2 playoff wins, after previously owning 1 playoff victory since 1957. But that success will come at a cost. While he's already the team's highest player, Jared Goff has just 1 more year left on his contract, and his successful tenure in Detroit has inevitably led to this offseason's extension talk. Having a good quarterback who wants to re-sign is a good problem to have, but the Lions' decisions surrounding Jared Goff's possible extension will shape this heavyweight contender for years to come. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to help us pursue 1 million subscribers. Now that we got all that out of the way, over the past few days, we've been dominating on Prize Picks. We've been hitting an NBA, MLB, and we're on a hot streak, making a ton of money while having a lot of fun while doing it. I post my picks for free on Instagram, so you can literally just go copy my picks and just enjoy the game. And right now, Prize Picks will double your deposit match when you use my promo code FlightMike when you sign up. Or you can just click on the link in the description down below and sign up for Prize Picks. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I already know that Detroit Lions fans are going to be upset at this video, so before we even start, I'm going to read you a stat line. Over 4,000 passing yards, 67.5% completion percentage, 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a 104.7 passer rating, and a Pro Bowl nod. This man also led his team to first in his division, but would end up losing in the wild card. These were the statistics of Alex Smith during his final season with the Kansas City Chiefs. They were preparing to move on to Patrick Mahomes. 2 seasons after moving on from Alex Smith, and the Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl. With that being said, when Jared Goff came to Detroit ahead of the 2021 season, the situation for him and the team didn't look so good. Goff was coming off of a rocky end to his tenure with the LA Rams after the 2 worst seasons of his career. He missed the 2020 regular season finale with an injury, and despite his availability the following week, head coach Sean McVay decided to bench his regular starter for their wildcard playoff game against the Seattle Seahawks. He instead decided to start John Wolford, a man who put a finance career on hold to play in the NFL. Goff would enter the game after Wolford left with an injury to help guide the Rams to a win, and he'd start in the divisional round against Green Bay. But LA lost with the offense mostly stagnant in the second half. The decision to start Wolford in the wildcard game was the last straw in the Goff-McVay relationship. A quarterback that the Rams had once gone all in on suddenly didn't appear as secure with the franchise. This was the same team that had traded a massive haul of high draft picks to get the #1 overall pick to draft Goff in 2016. After earning 2 Pro Bowl nods and a Super Bowl appearance in his first 2 years as a full-time starter, the Rams committed to him with a huge 4-year extension worth $140 million. The deal also included $110 million guaranteed, an NFL record at that time. But his subpar play and fractured relationship with Sean McVay over the following 2 seasons made his upcoming extension something the Rams were no longer willing to pay. The Rams decided to upgrade, trading Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford, and they were willing to give up 2 first-round picks to do so. They were also willing to take on the largest single-season dead cap hit in NFL history at the time, and it ultimately proved to be worth it for the Rams, who went on to win the Super Bowl the very next season, a little over a year after the trade was initially agreed to. Meanwhile, in Detroit, they were starting over. Just before the franchise-altering trade, in early 2021, the Lions had hired Dan Campbell as their new head coach and Brad Holmes as their new general manager. Holmes had previously been the Rams' director of college scouting and was in their front office when LA decided to trade up for Goff in 2016. Now his first big move in Detroit was to acquire Goff once again. It was a new era in Motown, but the future wasn't exactly bright. Yes, the Lions had begun to accumulate a hefty haul of high draft picks, but there was little confidence that this historically bad franchise would properly capitalize on those selections. Detroit's first pick of the new regime was offensive lineman Penei Sewell, who the team selected with the 7th overall pick. Later in the 4th round, they'd select wide receiver receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. Their first rounder was far from a sexy pick, and although Sewell would help shore up their offensive line, while St. Brown proved to be a steady wide receiver right away, it did little to change the following season's result. The Lions won just 3 games in 2021, tied for the fewest wins in the league and the worst record in the NFC. One silver lining was that Goff gave them a pretty decent season, albeit unspectacular, and they notably lost all 3 games that he missed. Armed with 2 first-round picks in 2022 thanks to their quarterback mega trade, Detroit could have used the opportunity to draft a new signal caller. However, 2022 was considered a weak draft for quarterbacks, and Goff still had 3 more years on his contract. So instead, they used the 2nd overall pick to take defensive end Aiden Hutchinson and traded up to the 12th overall pick to select wide receiver Jameson Williams. Goff hadn't exactly cemented himself as the team's long-term starter, but the offseason circumstances, his contract, and mostly competent play caused the team to run it back with him under center for the 2022 season. The following season provided the first true beams of hope for the Lions and for Goff. Detroit went 9-8, their first winning record in 5 years, due in large part to a terrific season from their quarterback. Goff had over 4,400 yards and 29 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions while posting the best interception percentage of his career. He finished in the league's top 10 in most major passing categories, earning him his 3rd career Pro Bowl honor. The Lions' offense ranked in the top 5 in both scoring and yards and sent 2 linemen, including Sewell along with St. Brown, to the Pro Bowl with their quarterback. The Lions narrowly missed the playoffs, but things were changing in Detroit. Goff was starting to look like the long-term answer at quarterback, not the expensive placeholder he was widely expected to be, and their 2023 draft proved to be another major boon for their offense. Detroit selected running back Jahmyr Gibbs with the 12th overall pick to pair with new free agent acquisition David Montgomery, and early in the 2nd round, they would select tight end Sam Laporta. Suddenly, an already potent offense got even more explosive. As a result, the Lions were awesome in 2023, with a season unlike anything their fans had witnessed in recent memory. They once again boasted a top 5 offense in terms of yards and scoring, which was all orchestrated by Jared Goff. Posting a career-high completion percentage, Goff threw for over 4,500 yards with 30 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. The rest of the offense was great too. St. Brown finished 3rd in the league in receiving yards. Montgomery and Gibbs combined for nearly 2,000 rushing yards, and Sam Laporta emerged as one of the league's best tight ends as a rookie. The Lions tied a franchise record with 12 wins, won their division for the first time since 1993, and got to host a playoff game, ironically against Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, and the LA Rams. Goff had a strong performance against his old team with 277 yards and a touchdown, displaying sharp accuracy and poise to help keep the ball away from the Rams late in the game. In front of a raucous Detroit home crowd, Jared Goff helped deliver the franchise's first playoff victory in 32 years. It was a full circle vindication for Jared Goff, who proved to his old team that he could still perform at a high level in the playoffs by ending their season. After the game, Dan Campbell had this to say about what his QB had just accomplished.
I'll just say it like this, all right? Hey, you're good enough for Detroit, Jared.
The party kept rolling into the divisional round, where they'd get another home playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Goff was leaned on heavily as Detroit threw the ball more, and he would deliver. He had 287 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. The Lions offense once again had 0 turnovers, and the Lions won another playoff game in front of their fans to advance to the NFC Championship game. Goff put up good numbers once again against the San Francisco 49ers, and after a huge first half, Detroit looked poised to advance to their first Super Bowl ever. The bottom fell out in the second half. The Niners rallied and ultimately sent the Lions home on the Super Bowl's doorstep. Blowing a 17-point lead was a disappointing finish, but the Lions gave their fans a season to remember and a reason to believe that they could win with Jared Goff as their quarterback. But what was once an abomination of a contract now had just 1 more year left on it. It didn't take long for Goff to be asked about his contractual future during his season-ending press conference, and while he professed his love for the team, he also put the onus on the front office.
Regards to my future, it's not up to me. I love this place, and we'll see what happens as time goes on here. But yeah, I love this place, and love Dan, love all the coaches, love all my teammates, and it's not out of my hands in some ways. It's up to my representatives and obviously the people upstairs. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think I've loved every second of my time here and would love more. And again, I can echo what I just said. I love Dan. I love the coaches. I love the players here and my teammates. And it would be great. But it's not up to me.
As the league turned their attention to the NFL Combine, GM Brad Holmes was asked about how the organization views Jared Goff's future with the team. Holmes didn't give away any concrete information, but he did say that the team had already made up their mind on what they plan to do regarding a possible Goff extension.
We're in alignment in the direction that we want to proceed. And again, like I told you before, once we have updates, we'll make sure you guys get it.
The fact of the matter is, Detroit needs Jared Goff, a reality that once seemed inconceivable when he was traded there 3 years ago. They have one of the best overall rosters in the NFL, but there's no clear QB succession plan if Jared Goff leaves in 2025 free agency. Detroit drafted Hendon Hooker early in the 3rd round of the 2023 draft after displaying a strong arm and dual threat ability at Tennessee. However, he has yet to even appear in a preseason game, much less a regular season game, after essentially taking his rookie season as a redshirt year after coming off of an ACL tear late in his college career. Trading for Goff at the start of their rebuild allowed the Detroit Lions to have a starter at a controlled salary while filling out the roster with cheap young talent through the draft. Since he took over, Brad Holmes has always taken the approach of drafting the best player available, regardless of position, and they plan to implement it again this year. It's a strategy that's been largely successful so far, but that success will come at a cost. After rebuilding for years, the Lions are just starting to enter the next phase of the NFL lifecycle. Now that they're a bona fide contender, the Lions will soon need to start paying the players that helped them get so good in the first place. It's a good problem to have, one that most teams would kill for, but the cap crunch is starting to get real. Fresh off of an all-pro season, Amon-Ra St. Brown also just has 1 year left on his contract. The Lions have reportedly been negotiating an extension with him that could land between $26 and $28 million a year. Thanks to his 5th year option, the Detroit Lions will have a little bit more time with Penei Sewell, who was also named an all-pro and is arguably the league's best right tackle, but that will dramatically increase his 2025 salary, and an expensive long-term deal will soon follow. This will be around the time when Aiden Hutchinson may start itching for a new deal as well, with his expensive 5th year option coming in 2026. Jared Goff hasn't been particularly cheap on his current deal, but the Lions haven't had many expensive deals during his tenure aside from center Frank Ragnow and offensive tackle Taylor Decker. As they discuss a long-term deal with their QB, the team knows that they will be changing as the young talent they've developed begins to outperform their rookie contract salaries. So how much will it take for the Lions to keep Jared Goff? He's currently scheduled to make about $27 million while carrying a $32 million cap hit. Those numbers should significantly increase, especially considering what Kirk Cousins got from the Falcons. Cousins, who left Detroit's division rival Minnesota Vikings to join Atlanta, signed a contract worth an average of $45 million annually, and this is after he came off of a torn Achilles. It's hard to envision a healthy Goff accepting a deal less than that after a Pro Bowl nod and 2 playoff wins during his Lions tenure. There are currently only 4 players whose contract averages over $50 million a season. You'd likely be hard-pressed to find anyone who is willing to take Goff over those 4, but he's going to expect to at least get close to them in terms of a new contract. If he does get a deal close to that annual average, it could force the Lions to make tough choices elsewhere on the roster. That would mean trading away one of their young risers before giving them a new contract, or moving on from Ragnow and Decker, who have had team-friendly outs on their contract and hold low dead cap hits. Whatever the end result of this negotiation is, it will largely dictate the way the Lions fill out their roster during their window of contention, and historically speaking, the Lions haven't had many chances to capitalize on a really good team like the one they have now. Detroit nailed the first step in acquiring the QB that became their guy. Now all that's left is making sure his extension doesn't sink their chance of remaining in the Super Bowl mix for the next couple of seasons. So let me know in the comment section down below, should the Detroit Lions extend Jared Goff, and if so, how much should he be paid? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.